Yeah, I feel like I just had an aha moment through what you were saying. Um, I I used to be that same exact way of hesitating, waiting for the entry, and then not being able to take it when it comes, second guessing, hesitating, fear of loss. And I just realized, like I haven't done that in months.
It's very common because I say I work with a lot of like entrepreneurs or high level like executives, people who have been very successfully professionally, but that doesn't translate always necessarily to other areas of life, and you kind of have to relate the two because at the end of the day, like you talked about, they are very similar. There's a lot of crossover between health, business, trading, all this kind of stuff, and it's just like kind of shifting how people think in
It's
terms of.
just
Now I kind of knew I didn't give my body enough time to process what happened the night before, and it just bled straight into my trading. And as we all know, when we're trading combines and funded accounts, and you can just easily start throwing shit at the wall, and before you know it, you're beating yourself up of something that was completely out of your control, right? Like,
It's so crazy to me how correlated this all is. Like when you're talking, Jordan, you could literally be talking about trading, or you could be talking about weight loss, fitness, all these things.
this next week's gonna be the week. I'm gonna make all the changes. It's gonna be green week. Like I have this habit of like thinking about that and think about the future in a very positive light. And he made the point that that is not what the best traders think about. This is Behind the Charts podcast, where real traders have real conversations. Yeah, back episode 17 of the podcast. Randy's got a mustache, and I am trading. I'm back on the desk more now. We're having a good time, and we got one of our listeners, Jordan, here. When we first started this podcast, I remember saying like how this was really for the community, and like we were just having these conversations, but like we thought a lot of other people would benefit from it, and it would be cool to like just be able to chat and network with traders through this podcast. And Jordan's always commented on the stuff, and we looked at his page and just was like, hey, he looks like an interesting person to talk to. Let's get him on. And he's like got a lot to share with the podcast. So really looking forward to the conversation. Jordan, thanks for giving us the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Yeah, I've been listening to you guys, I think, since I don't remember, episode 10 or something like that. And just, I think we're all kind of in the similar space with our like journeys, year and couple years in, whatever. And I just think like your guys' podcast fills a kind of a hole in the content space in trading. Like there's so much focused on, okay, what do I do as a pure beginner, like starting strategies, all that kind of stuff. And then there's also, other podcasts where it's like people who have been doing this for 5, 10, 15 years and are making hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars a year. And there's not a lot of conversations around kind of like just the struggles of, I guess, everyday traders. So that's why I really resonated with your guys' podcast.
Yeah, I was actually just like at my day job, I was talking with the chef there, and he was talking about how vulnerable it is for him to make a menu and for people to eat his food because it's in. And I never thought about it that way. Like I've cooked for 6 years professionally, and I never once thought like it was a vulnerable thing. But then I started to see it in a different way, and I guess in some ways these conversations are like vulnerable, and that we're just sharing what's on our mind. But I know that I have always taken the most value in my trading journey from other people who are being vulnerable and basically sharing their worst possible experiences. And so we try and get like both the positive and the negative, because it's like, right now for me, I've been going through a little bit of like a transition period, finding like I know my system really well, but now I'm like, I got to figure out how do I best deploy that system so that I can stay the most consistent. And, I ended up taking some time off the desk, but now like really as of recently, I'm like, I want to be back on the desk more, back learning. So really looking forward to the next few months of the podcast. And yeah, why don't you tell us just like a little bit about your trading? How'd you get started? Are you with ASFX, different coaching? Like just give us a little rundown of what your trading's like at the current moment.
Yeah, so I've been trading since April of last year, so I'm a little over a year in. My day job, I'm a health coach, so I've been doing that for over a decade now. And actually, one of my clients has been trading options for like over a decade. And I would always see him post about it on his social media. And, I was talking to him about it. And he's like, yeah, why don't you, he teaches a master class. It's like 6 weeks or something like that. He's like, why don't you take the class? So I took the class, and like, for, I don't know the exact reason, but I just like immediately like fell in love with the idea of trading, the process. It just, for whatever reason, like made sense to me, like as something that I could see, like I could do this, I could be good at it. And so I took his class, started like practice trading options in May of last year, started live trading about a month after that. And like probably every single one of us lost money right out of the gate. Didn't lose a lot, but I definitely was not profitable. And it really came down to, I didn't really feel like I had a system that I was confident in that made sense to me. And, so traded options on and off for the better part of 2024. And then towards the end of the year, kind of discovered prop firms. I always kind of knew about them, but never really was like sure if they were a legit thing or not. Heard, the horror stories of people like getting denied payouts or whatever. But, one of the discords that I was in, they were talking about one, and I was like, I'm just going to try it out. Evals are cheap. And, unfortunately or unfortunately, I think, one of the first couple of days where I traded, NQ, I made like $1,500, and I'm like, oh my God, this is more than I, had ever made trading options. Like, this is awesome. And then of course blew that eval shortly after, blew my resets. And then kind of really realized that I need to, okay, if I'm going to, I can't be blowing through this money on these evals and stuff like that. Like, I need to come up with a system. And so, did some mentorships, and just kind of over the last 6 months or so, I've really been focused on the prop futures space and just really honing in my system and figuring out like what really is going to work for me to make this sustainable and ultimately become profitable.
Mm-hmm. Randy, I don't even feel like I know like what got you really interested in trading from the beginning? Like, what got you into it? Because I know you're like really all in now. And
on a quick, like a quick side note of what Jordan was saying, though, that I still remember my first probably 3 trades trading futures were oil futures. I had just joined the BSC, and I believe they were in a combine, and I made like $4,500 in, I don't know, 10 minutes. And I thought I had cracked the code, the infinite money glitch. I'm rich. I can forget everybody around me. Like, this is it. And literally the next day, I lost it in half the time. So I know that feeling of that first trade. But no, kind of what Jordan said, like I fell in love. So 10 years ago, I owned some stocks. I thought I knew how to trade. I thought I was a trader, and really I was just an investor. Lost a bunch of money. And just stayed away from the charts forever. But there was something that I still got up in the morning, and instead of watching the news, I put on BNN, which was the Canadian version of MSNBC. And I watched that, and then just I wasn't happy with my career, and it was, the money was okay. But I just wasn't happy. And Hillary had gotten pregnant, and I decided I don't want to take this negativity into us starting a family, and just search day trading. Googled it, and what came up, Austin Show. Listened from episode 1. I spent like 2 months just binging all day, every day, listening to the podcast, and I wanted to trade Forex. So I reached out to Austin and said, hey, I want to trade Forex. And he's like, we don't trade Forex, we trade futures. And I met James. James was my coach, and I just started looking at the charts. But it's one of those things I actually fell in love with the process of coming to the desk, opening the charts, seeing the candles print, understanding, like starting to use indicators, the VWAP, and just almost like a dance, and just watching buyers and sellers do this all day. And where do I want to be in this dance? And I kind of fell in love with that aspect. And then I thought, again, infinite money glitch. I'm going to be rich and have a private jet and not have to worry about anything. And here we are almost 2 years in having this conversation. And I'm still in love with it. Don't get me wrong. I've been scorned a few times in the process, but I'm definitely still in love with it, and a lot to learn. And just like Jordan was saying earlier, I think this is where this podcast is just, there's no one really talking about what happens from year 1 to year profitability. And year profitability could be, in 6 months for some people. It could be in 5 years. I just tag Christine in a tweet, but there was another trader that we've been trading with, and Michael from Tampa, and we actually met him in Dallas, and I didn't realize he's been trading for 3 years, and he just took his first payout.
Mm-hmm.
I never
Yeah, I
realized
just saw that
he's
today
been trading
too.
for 3 years, and I knew he hadn't taken a payout, but for all honesty,
Mm-hmm.
it could have been 6 months, a year, who knows, because we're all at different parts of our journey. But when I saw that tweet today, it just resonated and reminded me, and I'm glad James reposted it, because it's like I reposted it because I want people to see that someone's journey could be year 5. Ak had his friend who's been trading for 10 years, and it wasn't until the 10th year he paper traded for 3 months and had a true breakthrough and is now profitable. 10 years. Like 2 years has gone by fast for me, but I can't imagine 10 years of trying something and repeatedly
Mm-hmm.
not finding success, right? So
Well, you remember Alex too. He traded for 4 years before he got a payout
yeah.
in the BSC. And
Mm.
it's just like the thought of showing up to a desk every day. And I used to tell the story a lot. The thought of showing up to a desk every day and literally like essentially failing at something for 4 years in a row to then just keep going and then making your goals, like, it's crazy. No one does this. That's why so many people lose. That's why this podcast is important, because I think it was Lawrence that said, I think we asked him, like, how do you get through this time? And he's like, you got to just be prepared to take the shit for as long as
Mm-hmm.
it needs to happen.
Takes. Yeah.
And that's why this podcast is great, because we're all in it and we're all talking about it. It sucks, but you just got to keep showing up every single day until you get to your goals. Like, there's no question. You can't give up in it. Like, I don't care. Like, I've been trading for a long time. I haven't made a payout, and I'm still going to come tomorrow, the next day, and the next day after that. Period. There is no question about it. So it is nice to be able to talk through it with people, because that helps you come to the desk. Like, if you were sitting here alone and you don't have anyone,
Mm-hmm.
like, use the podcast as your people. We're here every single week. Give this, like, make this to be your motivation, or find a trading partner, but you need someone at the desk to look for you, because you can't just be showing up on your own, because then you won't live up to your own standards, right? You need someone to, like, expect you to be there. If I don't see Thomas on the desk, I'm like, hey, Thomas, like, what's going on? Where are you at?
Mm-hmm.
And like, Jordan, now you come on the streams a lot, and it's like, I expect to see your name there. If I don't see you, eventually I'm going to be like, where the fuck did Jordan go? So it's like good to have these people. It's good to have these conversations. And I just went off on a tangent, but I did want to say one thing. I think I love trading, like, for the same reasons. I like, Jordan, your story is my story. It's probably Randy's story. It's everyone's story. I think when we first get into trading, it knows that we're like a newbie, and it gives us this, like, hope. You see this, like, glimmer of, oh my gosh, I can make all this money. I can fly private jets. Like, this is, like Randy said, this is the answer. And it dangles it, and it, like, catches you. And then you're stuck. Like, there's nothing. You can't go to another job and have that same, like, dream dangled in front of you. Like, this, there's no way you can quit now, because that hope was given to you in the very beginning. And now I'm just, like, living on the possibility of this amazing dream. But like, your story is so similar to
I don't think you get, Christine, I don't think you get stuck. I think you just get too smart for yourself, and then you just get in your own way.
Maybe,
I think in the beginning we have beginner's luck, is because we're not getting in our own way, and now we know how the what the buyers and sellers are doing, or we know from this indicator that this is going to happen, and we get in our own way, and that's the battle. But one thing I did want to actually ask Jordan that kind of got me when Christine was just talking about, like, accountability or having somebody there. And I know I kind of followed you in your weight loss journey. Like I saw on your Instagram, like that stuff. And I've personally struggled with my weight my whole life. And this is like something Christine and Thomas know a lot about, but I don't really talk too much about it, like outside of on stuff like this. But how, like, would you recommend I can take, like, because I can be consistent and routine when it comes to the charts, and I got a non-negotiable list in the morning, but I'm starting to try and work with having a bit of a trainer, like an online trainer, help me, because obviously for me to do it in person. It's not affordable at the moment.
Mhm.
So I've been trying that route. But in your opinion, how would you say, like, so I do well at adhering to everything at the desk, but when it comes to going in the garage, and I have a decent gym setup and all that, like, what would you recommend, how to kind of bridge that gap to say, like, how do you carry this? Because you do both, and you seem to be doing both well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're on the right track. I mean, selfishly, I say as a coach, like having that accountability is just like the next level of kind of that next step. When I first lost weight, like I did some of it by myself, but I hired a coach, and that was like all the difference, because I think, when you guys alluded to it earlier, or Randy, you alluded to it, is like with trading, like you get in your own way sometimes about like overthinking things, or, switching things up, like you're switching up a strategy when maybe you just didn't give it enough time or stuff like that. And as a coach, like one of the things that I talk most with about my clients is just like patience, like staying the course, like giving them that feedback to get out of their own way. And I think having a support system, whether it's a coach, a community, it really makes all the difference, because we all know, like, we can all probably figure out what to do to lose weight or to get in shape. It's like exercise, it's your eating and stuff like that. But it's the doing that is hard, and that self accountability is a hard thing. Christine's point about finding support, community, friends, people you're doing it with, whether that's paying for them, like you mentioned on Austin's podcast, Christine, or just finding those people, like that to me is what I have seen in my like 10 years of being a coach, and almost 20 years of my health journey, is having that support, having a support system in place, because more often than not, we're kind of going to let ourselves off the hook when things get tough and it comes right down to it. But it's tough to disappoint other people, and I think that really just makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And playing off that, and Randy, you might have more questions, but I wanted to talk to you about like the crossover that you see, because you're coming from an industry of like self-care, right? The fitness side of things. And now you're entering into trading, which surprisingly is a lot of self-care as well. That matters. Like, how much crossover do you see between what you've done and what you're doing now?
Specifically in like the processes, because I feel like that's where it must be super similar.
Yeah, I think kind of like I just alluded to, I've had that experience in trading where like, I'm not winning trades, or I'm not, making money, and I like start second guessing, like, is the strategy I'm using good? Like, should I continue this? Like, should I try something new? Flip-flopping. And I see that a lot of times with, to your point, Thomas, about just trusting the process, is like, especially when it comes to weight loss and, making changes to your health and getting in better shape, like it is a process. Most of us see like before or after pictures, or like these, 90-day transformations, and really like think like that is the norm. And in my experience, it's a 6 to 12 month process for 90% of people. And then after that, it's about, sustaining those habits that you built over that time. And ultimately, I think that it's just learning to understand that it's going to take longer than you think. And I think that was probably the biggest disservice I did myself when I started trading, is I thought I was going to be super successful a lot faster than is realistic. And now I listen to everybody talk, the more I've dug into the content about like, oh, it took me 2 years to be profitable, 3, 4, 5 years to be profitable. And here I was thinking like I was going to start trading options and, start making money, in a couple months. And it's just, I think we get impatient when we want something so bad, that it's that impatience that ultimately ends up costing us, the consistency that we really need to see the process through.
Like with basically like with weight, with trading, we're all looking for change in some sort of way until we reach a certain threshold. Then we're looking to like stay consistent. But during that in the period where we're looking for change, that's often where we struggle the most to find the right change for us. I've been rereading Best Loser Wins, really great book. And one of the things that they consistently talk about is pain, and more than pain, like disgust. Like in trading, if you feel disgusted with yourself for an action, you're most likely not going to take that action again versus if you love taking that action. And I'm like drawing a blank on exactly what it was that I wanted to say about this, because dang, I'm drawing a blank, but
It was
about
important though. It was very
it was
important.
important. It was about the book. It was something about the book, but basically in health, what is the motivator for people most often? Is it that they want to see this, or is it that they don't want to see the other side?
Yeah, I would say most of the time, and they teach you, like a lot of business coaches teach you about this in marketing. It's that it's more about moving away from the pain than it is moving towards the pleasure. And a lot of times, to your point, Thomas, I think that like we just have to do things that are so painful enough times where we're just like, I can't take this anymore. In health, maybe that's, just feeling tired and run down, low energy every day, that you're like, I got to do something about this. Or, for some people, you don't like looking at yourself in the mirror. That's very common for a lot of clients. It's just like, I have to do something about this. But it's oftentimes it's more about moving away from the pain than it is moving towards the pleasure, so to speak. Like, we all want to take payouts. We all want that money, but that's not necessarily, I think, always the motivating factor for us to change. It's when we make mistakes, it's when we screw up, it's when we're mad at ourselves that really kind of cements like, oh, I don't want to do this again. And by extension, doing that is what's going to move you closer to your goals by taking whatever, steps, changes you need to make, etc.
I remember what I was going to say. I just, because it is interesting.
Right.
The best traders don't think about their wins, and like they don't think positively in the future. Like I have a very bad habit of like over the weekend thinking this next week's going to be the week. I'm going to make all the changes. It's going to be green week. Like I have this habit of like thinking about that and think about the future in a very positive light. And he made the point that that is not what the best traders think about. They think about their failures and what they're going to do differently the next time that situation happens. And so I found myself thinking about this quite a bit. And I just wanted to go around the table and like, do you guys also think very like project very like future positive, future negative? Like, what does that look like for you guys on the weekend? Like when it gets to the weekend, what are you thinking about coming to the next week, Jordan?
I don't know if I necessarily like look ahead to the week necessarily, like how I want the week to look, but like kind of on a day-to-day basis, I have definitely shifted more towards the risk management focus of like, I do not want to blow through another account. I don't want to lose money. Like, I'll take the wins, that whatever the wins are that I can get, but I don't want to blow an account and not be able to trade or have to spend that money to go out and get another account. Like before, I was definitely focused on like, oh, I didn't get a big enough winner, so now I'm going to take more size, and that would ultimately just lead to a bigger loss. And so now I'm focused on more slow and steady and staying in the game as long as possible rather than trying to get to the finish line of a payout or profitability as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm a little bit of both. Thomas, I'm like you. I look forward and I think I was like, this is going to be it. Like, but I've been waiting for a long time. I've been looking towards a payout for a long time. So I think that's a natural thing. But I'm also doing a little bit about what Jordan's doing. Like one big thing that's helped me, and I keep meaning to talk about this, but setting a budget for how much you pay for your prop accounts helped me a lot, because it says that, okay, I've already spent my budget this week, so I need to be really risk adverse so that if I blow this, I can't buy another one. So it helps kind of rein back that super positive forward thinking into more the reality of the situation and more business minded and more risk adverse and things like that. So I'm kind of sitting in the middle. But I do see, like, I think Tom Hogarth talks about printing out your book of like horrible trades and like big mistakes so that you can look at like what you've done that's so bad and like keep it in the forefront of your mind, which is so funny because we think, why would we do that to ourselves? Like we're just punishing ourselves, but it's actually a really good tip, and I should incorporate that more into my day.
So well, I was clapping when Jordan said the whole thing about the payout, like, and this has been like just a tangent that I've kind of been on, and I'm veering. I don't even like the term payout anymore because I think we just, unless you're setting yourself up that you need the money from the payout to change something, it's not even a payout. Like, forget about it. And me and Thomas were talking about this earlier, and I've just detached myself completely from when I do take a payout on these 30 accounts that I'm trading. It could be 6 months from now. But I know that if I have to, for the next 3 months, renew these renew the subscriptions for these combines, it's going to cost me $1,500 a month. But I know the long game is going to be much more fruitful than the $3,000 or $4,500 I invested into these accounts. And I think that's where we get so swayed by, and I kind of what Jordan said, like I used to be like, shit, I could have passed this account today. Or I could have had a winning trade and had 50% of this challenge account or eval wrapped up. And now I'm just more or less stacking green days where I'm getting to a point like today, if I had a losing day, no matter what, I'm still green on the week. And I think being able to tell myself that versus looking ahead and being like, okay, I need to have a big week this week, or I need to pass this, or the end of the month is coming on these accounts. And that's kind of what I was doing before. I was looking at dates, and just now these accounts that I have, they're all scattered different dates. So I don't even care. It's my credit card's there, and I'm straight up. If I get charged for a renewal on them, I didn't blow the account. I'm just trusting my process. And if I'm trading 1 micro, 3 micros, 10 micros, whatever it is, I'm still trusting the process and just doing my job. And right now my job, and I'm paying tuition or paying rent, whatever you want to call it, for these accounts until they get funded. And then I will reap the rewards of, investing in it. So I'm a big believer in manifestation and like looking ahead. And this is where I see myself in X amount of time, but I realize that there is now a space between today and that time. And that could be 6 months, a year, 3 years, but I will eventually, like, my goals are waiting for me to be reached. Like that outcome is 100% there. And it might not be for a while, but this is the profession I chose to do. And I know that if I just stay the course, have my guardrails up, take one, whether it's one trade a day or trade certain size or whatever your risk parameters are, as long as you manage that risk and you keep yourself in the game, you're eventually going to come out on top.
Yeah.
Right?
I think to be successful, you have to look at this from a business perspective. Like you don't open a store and just kind of sit there and, you dream about how much money you're going to make. Like that's not what keeps the lights on. Like you have to plan, you have to, to like project, like you have to be risk averse and just stay in the game long enough to, make the business profitable, to get customers in the door and stuff like that. Because if you just blow through, I'm the same way as Christine. Like I have a set amount that I spend, that I have allotted to spend on accounts every month. And if I blow through those in the first 2 weeks, then I don't get to trade for 2 weeks. And I love trading. Like I love, I took this week off just to take a break, but I love showing up every morning. I love the process of trading. I love in the afternoon when I review the charts. Like this is very enjoyable to me. And if I don't get to do that, not only am I not getting better by putting in the reps, I'm not doing something that I genuinely enjoy. So I think from the mindset of being risk averse, staying in the game as long as possible, to Randy's point, like you're eventually going to get there. That's what I tell my clients too. Like it doesn't matter, if you lost 1 pound this week or you lost 3 pounds, like as long as you are consistent, you will get to your goal eventually. And I think that's the mindset that really separates the people who stay in this for the long term and are eventually successful to those who, think it's a scam or that doesn't work and drop off because they blew a bunch of money.
And
I love that.
It's so funny we're talking about this because I'm just sitting here thinking about like, so we're going to LA in October. I have, and I'll be like, I want to set a weight loss goal and I'll hit it, but then I'll just put that weight back. Like there's never I'm always setting these short-term goals, and I'm getting that short-term gratification. Like, oh, I'm going to go out and get some extra large t-shirts and some fitted shirts, and I look great in these. And then, a week, 2-3 weeks go by and they're getting tighter and tighter on me. And then it's like the gratification is gone of looking great for LA or wherever my goal was to go. And then before you know it, I'm beating myself up that like, hey, I put 10 pounds on again, or 20 pounds, whatever it is. And, I go through this vicious cycle over and over again. And it's so crazy that talking out loud right now as a group, it's just like the vicious cycle of even like a prop firm payout of like short-term gratification. I'm going to hit this in 4 weeks. I'm going to get a payout. The payout's not going to change my life. So what does it matter? I'm going to get this. Like, me losing weight for LA is not going to change my life. Me losing weight for a year and keeping it off is going to change my life. It's going to make me healthier and, I'll be in a better position. So it's like, now my big goal is, and this is just me being an aha moment, like, how am I going to take all this stuff that I preach when it comes to my trading and apply it to my health, to my personal life? And I think it's just something whether it's part of the conversation or not at the moment, I'm sorry. I just it came to me, and I wanted to just say how I do these short-term weight loss cycles, and I just go through this vicious cycle over and over and over again. But right now, when it comes to trading, I've slowed everything down completely. I don't care about a payout. I'm trading 1 to 3 micros, multiple, whatever it is. Like, it's so, people look at my P&L and they'd be like, oh, you made $80 today. And what is that? And I was like, well, there's a whole plan in place right now. Like, I'm doing this over multiple accounts, but I've never felt better about my trading. So it's like, how do I now incorporate that? Like, maybe I need to just tell myself, Randy, at 10 a.m., you're going to the gym for 10 minutes. Just go in the gym for 10 minutes, do something, go ride the bike, lift a weight, just put your runners on and just go walk out to the gym. Like,
I always find the first 2 minutes sucks. And then you're just there, and it's like, all right, I'm enjoying it now and it feels good. But the first 2 minutes is always terrible. But I wanted to ask Jordan, did you do any work around like diet and its correlation with like peak performance as a trader, or anything related to that?
Yeah, not necessarily. I would say trading in general, because I take more of a, for lack of a better term, a holistic approach with my coaching, because what I have found through personal experience is that, everything about our health, our fitness, bleeds into other areas of our lives. And whether that's, immediate or 10, 15 years down the road, like, everybody's going to feel those effects at some point. And so, I focus a lot on, with my clients, on, not just necessarily eating for weight loss, but eating for performance, for overall health, for longevity, for energy levels. With some clients, we'll like look at blood work and help them optimize like their hormones through like lifestyle changes, getting better sleep, all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, absolutely. Like, if you have poor habits, a poor lifestyle, poor routine, whatever, it is going to show up in how you feel, how you think, how you perform, because, at the end of the day, our sleep, our nutrition, our habits, whether that be like hydration, exercise, stress management, like, all that affects other areas of our lives as well, especially mental performance, energy levels, focus, all that kind of stuff. And so I'm a big believer in, having having a healthy routine, having some sort of set routine, making you're getting enough sleep, making sure you're drinking enough water, make sure you're eating well, because it is going to affect how you feel, how you perform at some point, whether that's today, whether that's next month, down the road, especially because the longer you have bad habits, the more they compound, the more they affect you. And so I'm a big believer in having that type of routine in place, because it's only going to help you.
It's so crazy to me how correlated this all is. Like, when you're talking, Jordan, you could literally be talking about trading, or you could be talking about weight loss, fitness, all these things. And I think, once again, I know we always bring up Lawrence because he just said a lot of good shit in that episode, but he talked about this career being a high performance career. And it's like, other athletes that are having high performance careers, like, they focus a lot on what they eat, how they sleep, how they feel, how they're fueling their bodies, like their mental health. And like, we know it's so important to trading. And I just think it's super cool to have that conversation. And it is hard. It's the same. Like, I struggle with keeping up on that end of the health spectrum as well. Like I've managed to get more disciplined in trading and all these things, but still when it comes to like the life stuff like Randy, I still struggle with that. And but it is, if you think of it as a whole, like that word, like a holistic approach, you have to look at it all. Like am I not doing as well in trading because I haven't fully done well in this other portion of my life? And maybe that's true, maybe it's not, but it's just really interesting to look at it as a whole and how I can make my performance on the desk better by changing some of these other habits in my life.
Yeah, and I
Well,
think
sorry, just one thing I want to add here. I think a lot of us make the detrimental decisions in our trading when we're not in the right headspace, where we look back and we go, that was not me. Like that was a different person on the desk. And I know for me it happens because I wake up an hour before the market opens, and sometimes I just literally haven't had enough time to be awake. But I also want to ask like about my diet the night before. Like, are there I found it's mostly about things I should avoid. It's not about things to add, but about things to avoid. Is there certain things that we as humans should just be avoiding at night so that when we wake up, we are in a more like ready state of mind?
I wouldn't necessarily say like avoid, because everybody's physiology is going to be different. What kind of foods work well for them is going to vary. I wouldn't necessarily, obviously I'm a big advocate of eating whole, minimally processed foods 80 to 90% of the time. I perfectly believe that there's room for indulgences every now and then. Problem is most people indulge too much, but in moderation, anything is fine. I believe in a well-balanced diet because our bodies utilize carbohydrates, they utilize fats, they utilize protein, all for different reasons. And so I've always found a good results with a well-balanced approach. But what I have found makes the biggest difference and where a lot of people end up being deficient is in the areas of sleep and stress management. And I kind of lump those two together because they kind of go hand in hand. Sleep helps how your body handles stress, but stress will also negatively affect sleep. And so that's where when I talk about holistic coaching, that is something that I look at with all my clients on a regular basis, is how are they sleeping? How are their stress levels? Because those are things that I think get afterthoughts a lot of time, but in my experience have just as much of an impact on how we feel and perform on a regular basis and our health overall as diet and exercise.
Interesting.
And I've had instances like where Jordan said, where I've had a stressful event. I didn't get a good night's sleep, and it either led to poor trading, and now I can be fully aware of that. And if something like that happens, I just won't trade the next day, because I'll immediately know my sleep, and I track all my stuff like almost too. It's like Jordan was saying in the beginning, like just tracking everything, like going too far down the rabbit hole. But now, for the last 6 months, I stopped looking at my sleep score, and I just know whether I've slept good or not. It's such where Hillary loves to see her sleep score, and some people love to see it, and it makes them even their sleep feel like it was even better or worse. Where for me, I don't even. She'll look at it, and I'll know if I had a terrible sleep, and she like, you didn't sleep well last night, and I'll be like, yeah, because I know I didn't sleep well. Where I know if I'm rested, I'm good, right? So, and I noticed a correlation where I was going with this is. Maybe a few months ago, I had a really stressful situation happen around 9 p.m. at night. And I thought I slept okay. I thought I slept through the night, but when I woke up, I felt something was still off. I decided trading, and in mid-trade, all these emotions started arising from the stress event. And it was just, now I kind of knew I didn't give my body enough time to process what happened the night before. And it just bled straight into my trading. And as we all know, when we're trading combines and funded accounts, and you can just easily start throwing shit at the wall, and before you know it, you're beating yourself up of something that was completely out of your control, right? Like you should have just left it alone. So
yeah, and I think too, like with trading, like because the market's open every single day, like we feel like we have to show up every single day, especially if we're trading evals. Like that's why I don't really do evals anymore. Like I allocate all my money to straight to funded, because like the deadline of that renewal always got to me, like having to show up every day, having to pass that eval. And I think it's very important to be honest with ourselves and the more you do it, to your point, Randy, the more you understand how you feel. I think it's important to be honest with ourselves about how we feel. Like, I was on vacation Monday, Tuesday this week. I ordinarily would get up and trade like on my laptop, but didn't get as many hours of sleep. Wednesday morning, I was home. I could have sat at the desk, but I didn't have a chance to look at the charts the night before, plot out my levels. And today I was just like, you know what? I'm not mentally in the space where I feel comfortable getting back and trading again. And so, like, unintentionally, I took this whole week off, and I think it's been good, but I also, me a month or two ago would not have done that. I would have felt like I had to trade. And I think it's just important to be honest with ourselves about how we feel about trading in our mental space. And I think that just comes with time as well.
Yeah, I love that. We're big advocates of taking time off for sure. And I think you said it so well that the eval stage, it puts something in your mind to where you have to be there. You have to get that, you have to sling that account to try to pass it before you do a reset, because what if you passed it and then you didn't have to do the reset? And it just puts a lot of more, it takes you out of what really trading is and puts you back into the game of prop firms. So I love that you were able to be aware of that and switch over to the straight to funded. I mean, that comes with its own mental games as well. But like, obviously that was a point for you, and you were able to figure that out and fix that, which is going to help you obviously in the long run. And I'm big, like I take time off all the time. Took my kids to Great Wolf Lodge these last 3 days, was back on the desk today. And I was just so happy that I can do that. Like, I think that's one of the great things about trading is that you can choose when you trade, when you don't. I know Thomas has taken tons of breaks. Randy, same thing. Like, we all have families. We all have things we want to do with our lives. And trading allows us to decide whether we show up or not. And it's like one of the biggest positive things about this whole job, I think.
Christine, maybe we can kind of have a little wrap up section on just how, because I know you've been doing a lot of personal training. You've been having a lot of focus on health and peak performance in the last few months. And I know we've been trying to have like an episode where we talk about this, and we haven't really. Maybe you can give us a little update on how it's been helping you in your trading, and how you've been feeling, if you've been seeing a benefit from all of the work that you've been putting in off the desk, essentially.
So I don't know is the answer. I kind of, like, this past year when I was in Mexico, Jordan, to catch you up, I started personal training for like the first time in my life, weightlifting, and I was doing that 2 to 3 times a week, which was great. But I didn't get, I guess, the results I was looking for, just like in trading. It wasn't this immediate thing. Like, not, mind you, I did it for 8 months, and I'm sure I gained some muscle, but for me, as a girl, I wanted to lose weight, and I didn't. So I thought, well, what the hell am I lifting weights for when I'm not getting to this, like, this goal, probably like Randy. And I would try to have these short-term goals of like, okay, I'm going on this trip, but it never worked for me. So it was good getting into a routine for sure. Like, I had to pay a trainer though. I had to like meet someone there. I couldn't do it on my own, but I don't care. I'm such an advocate for paying for things, paying for friends, paying for trainers, because I think it's so helpful. So I did learn some discipline. I could figure out a routine, but since I've been home for the summer, it's totally like fallen off. So I am still focused on eating well. And I mean, I eat well generally anyways. And my husband, actually, he's on a big peptide kick. So we've been doing peptides. Yeah. Start looking into peptides. If you want to do peak performance, check out peptides and start shooting yourself up every day.
You got discount code?
No. Should I? I should probably. Is that our new sponsor? Peptide company?
CP157.
CP157, HCG, NAD plus, like all these things. There's a world of these types of things that you can really get into health wise. So my husband's been doing that. I'm on some, not as much as he is. So that's kind of been a bit of a focus, more like of longevity, like internal health longevity. Like, I want to live till I'm 97 kind of.
Hmm.
focus, and obviously eating well, very well. But I'm not a disciplined person. I've struggled with that in trading, so I struggle with it off the desk as well. And I do think, though, when I get to my peak performance of everything, it's going to be when all these things line up. When my exercise lines up with my right eating, when my discipline on the desk lines up with my discipline in life. Like, I can see this being this magical zone
Mhm.
that I finally get to, but it's a tough climb for me, at least.
You know, I want to ask you, Jordan. Let's say your client is Christine. They're
Yeah.
not losing the weight. What do you like? What's your other metric? What is because in trading the metric is P&L. Obviously, we could say we're improving or not, but at the end of the day, if we're not making more money, then where we find that improvement, how do we keep going? What do you tell your clients if they're not hitting the one necessary goal that they want to hit?
So I mean, and this is the benefit of, working with the client and checking in with them every single week, is I get to see in real time, like, what are they doing well? Like, what are they doing? Like, what do they need to keep doing? And where are they, maybe falling short? At the end of the day, when it comes to losing weight, it's, are you taking in more calories than your body's burning? And so, we're looking at their food intake, looking at their meal logs, making sure that they are being consistent on a regular basis as far as their food intake. In terms of like the building the discipline, like, that is the hard part, unfortunately. And you said it perfectly. Like, it is a climb. Some people make that climb in 6 months, a year. Some people, have to roll down the hill a little bit, get back up and keep going before they eventually get to that spot. And I was talking with a friend about this today, is like, a lot of times, not a lot of times, but sometimes it just comes down to, like, we need to be willing to do the things that are uncomfortable or hard or something like that. For some people, that's, maybe tracking their food intake for a while. For some people, that is, putting their shoes on and going to the gym. For some people, that's going to bed earlier, whatever it might be. Like, with trading, liken it to trading, like, sometimes, like, for me personally, like, hesitation is a big thing for me, and, like, waiting for the perfect setup. And sometimes, like, I just need to accept that I'm going to lose and get in the trade, because more often than not, it seems like it's going to work out for me. But that hesitation just causes me to pause and miss the trade, because, I'm scared to lose. I'm scared to be wrong. I'm scared to blow the account, whatever. And, we just kind of have to suck it up sometimes and do those things that are hard, because at the beginning is when it's going to be the hardest. And as we build that routine, that discipline, the more often we do the things that are hard, the easier they become. And that's how the habits are built. But at the beginning, it really comes down to doing the things that are uncomfortable for us. And whether that's trading, health, whatever it might be, that's a step we try to bypass a lot of times, I think, and we just really can't.
Like Randy, I feel like I just had an aha moment through what you were saying. Um, I I used to be that same exact way of hesitating, waiting for the entry, and then not being able to take it when it comes, second guessing, hesitating, fear of loss. And I just realized, like, I haven't done that in months. And like I also had one of these moments recently where I took a loss on a winning trade idea. And I was like, that hasn't happened to me in months. And this used to happen to me all the time. And I guess kind of to answer my own question of like, how do you find the progress? This is how you find the progress. You have to really journal, analyze what you're doing, where are the wins, where are the mistakes, what's changing, what's new, because I'm going to end this podcast with such positive energy of like, hey, what you used to do, you don't do. And it's like, it was just a matter of like more time on the desk. Like, I can't say anything changed other than like, I just showed up more and just kept taking the loss. And like, if anything, I really do subscribe to the logic of like, if when I enter this trade, it's a loser until it wins. And that's also definitely helped me just be like, hey, I'm going to take the leap and just get in this trade, even if it loses, because I got to learn.
Yeah.
I
I,
love
I was gonna say, I think, to Randy's point, kind of along the lines of like manifestation, like, I'm a big believer in, especially with trading, like, you have to celebrate the wins, find the wins, because if you're only judging it by P&L, I think it was, you talked about, I think when Lawrence was on the podcast, you talked about like how as a trader, you can be improving, but still losing money at the same time. And, as you get better, that gap closes. But if you don't identify like how you're winning in ways outside of money, you're going to quit before you ever close that gap and finally start making money. And so that's why in our check-ins every single week, one of the questions I ask clients is like, what's a win from this week? And a lot of times if they say, well, I lost, X amount of weight, I'm like, that's great. How did you win this week? Because like, you can't always celebrate our wins in the outcome, because we're not always going to get the outcomes that we want every single day. And so I'm a big believer in just looking at, celebrating wins, journaling. I have really tried to get much more detailed in how I journal, to try to, look at what my progress is. What did I see that maybe I didn't see before? Because ultimately, like, we have to find ways, again, to celebrate our progress. That is not the outcome that we're looking for.
What's a journaling prompt you really like asking yourself at the end of a trading, specifically about trading?
Prompt. I mean, I think a big one is, what did I learn? Because even in a winning trade, like, I try and identify something that maybe I wouldn't have seen before. Whether it's something with trade management, whether it's something with my entry, whether it's something with like the confluences in why I was taking this trade. I want to try. I've always been somebody who likes learning. I want to learn. And so I think trying to identify like something new that I learned or maybe didn't see before is very important, because going back to, like I said, that's, I think, a big way to measure progress in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love that.
Any final thoughts, Christine?
Well, Randy, are we hiring Jordan after this?
He's already hired. I already
You're already hired, Jordan. Group coaching.
But yeah, no, on the whole thing, that just to
Can
kind
we
of
get a discount?
Of course.
what we were talking about is that I can be so rigid with my diet that when it comes to the week, like, it's almost like I'm trying to, like, the way I was thinking of when you guys were talking is that you do so well on this combine, and then it comes to a renewal date and you just have to swing for the fences and blow it. And for me, I think, I'm so clean with my diet and so hyper focused on getting protein and just, making sure I'm getting all my vitamins, my supplements, and it comes the weekend, it kind of just disappears. And I don't say I eat like crazy, but maybe I do, maybe I don't. And I think maybe the logging it, and I don't want to log it because I don't want to know the truth. You have to face it. It's like journaling, right? Like, look, reviewing a bad trade has been the most important thing for me to do, learning to trade. I'll tell, like, that's one of the things I take away from the Black Shirt Club. Any mentorship you do is journaling, but really focusing on a tilt day or bad trades and just really reflecting and dissecting what happened through that. And maybe I don't consider it a bad day because it's a weekend and I'm having fun and I'm out with my family and I'm eating something good, or I'm going out for some drinks, or I'm doing something, right? It's I don't get up and do my morning routine like I normally do. So something I'm definitely going to be.
Well, it's like we always find an excuse, It's like, oh, it happened. I was on stream. I got induced, or like, just to use that as the example, or like, oh, I woke up. I wasn't in the right mind frame. Like, this has been a very parallel conversation.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things are parallel in here.
It's just crazy that I can do so well in something and feel like I'm failing at something else that are so similar. If that makes sense.
Well, it's not trading. We're doing so well at showing up at the desk, yet we're not doing very well in our P&L. Like,
it's very common, because I work with a lot of like entrepreneurs or high level like executives, people who have been very successfully professionally, but that doesn't translate always necessarily to other areas of life, and you kind of have to relate the two, because at the end of the day, like you talked about, they are very similar. There's a lot of crossover between health, business, trading, all this kind of stuff. And it's just like kind of shifting how people think in terms of, their habits, their routine, because, it is very common to kind of like, when you are hyper-focused on one area, to not necessarily be able to make those changes in another area, when in reality, it's actually kind of very similar in the approach and how you go about it. So yeah, that's a very common thing that I see.
So good.
Man. So good. This was great. Great. Thanks for coming on, Jordan. Thanks for your time.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, really appreciate it. This has been a great conversation. A lot of parallels. It wasn't like I feel like this was a very indirectly impactful conversation where if
Yeah.
you listen to it and you kind of take it with a grain of salt and how you're functioning, it could really be very impactful, very actionable.
Yeah.
So
And we'll definitely put all your stuff below so people can find you,
yeah,
because I think you would give a lot of value to a lot of people, traders out there for sure.
Well, I think we should do a part 2 in 6 months and kind of see where we're having success and where we're struggling in both aspects of health and trading, right? So
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's
absolutely.
definitely good to follow up and say, we talked about this stuff 6 months ago. Did what helped, what didn't help, and those kind of things. So definitely, I'm looking forward to me being a few pounds lighter for that follow up. I'm not going to say I need to be 20 pounds lighter. Give me a few pounds and I'm good. It's just keeping it off and being consistent, I think, is the key. So
yeah, consistency is everything.
Awesome.
Consistency is everything. All righty. Cheers,
Everything.
everybody. Have a
Bye.
great trading week.
Thanks, guys.